4 lives, 4 chilling disappearances, and a trail of unanswered questions that still haunt us today. Rebecca Coriam set sail on a Disney cruise full of dreams, only to vanish into the vast ocean. George Smith disappeared during a romantic honeymoon, leaving behind a mystery as deep as the waters he traveled. News anchor Jodi Huisentruit, a familiar face in homes across the country, mysteriously went missing on her way to work, while Brian Shaffer seemed to dissolve into thin air from a crowded bar. Join us as we delve into these perplexing stories of people who vanished, leaving families in despair and a world searching for answers. Brian Shaffer was a promising 27-year-old medical student at Ohio State University, known for his intelligence, easygoing personality, and charm. Life seemed to be moving forward for Brian, though he had recently endured the heartbreaking loss of his mother to cancer. He handled the grief in his own way, keeping a brave face for friends, family, and his girlfriend, Alexis Wagoner. Alexis and Brian were inseparable, and they were eagerly anticipating an upcoming vacation to Miami, a break they hoped would offer a sense of renewal after the emotional strain of the past year. On the evening of March 31, 2006, Brian decided to unwind before the trip. It was the start of spring break, and Brian planned to meet his friend, William Clint Florence, for a night of bar hopping in Columbus's Arena District. The pair first stopped at the Ugly Tuna Saloon, a popular campus bar, to have a few drinks. The night began like any other: laughter, drinks, and friendly banter. As the night went on, they visited several other bars before returning to the Ugly Tuna Saloon for one last round. At around 1:55 a.m., security footage captured Brian standing at the entrance of the bar, talking briefly to 2 women. He appeared relaxed, as if the night was going as planned. Brian then turned back toward the entrance and walked into the bar. This was the last time anyone would see him. When the bar closed at 2 a.m., Clint and their other friend, Meredith, realized Brian was nowhere to be found. They assumed he had gone home early or met up with someone else, but as hours turned into days, concern grew. Calls to Brian's phone went unanswered. His car remained parked near his apartment, and he never boarded the flight to Miami with Alexis. The police launched a full-scale investigation. Security footage from the Ugly Tuna was carefully reviewed, and while Brian was seen entering the bar, there was no footage showing him leaving. The bar's exit was under constant surveillance, and it made no sense that Brian could simply vanish. Investigators scoured the area, checking every possible exit route and even the building's rooftop, but no trace of Brian was found. Friends and family were questioned extensively. Clint, who had been with Brian that night, remained tight-lipped, even refusing to take a polygraph test, which fueled speculation. Was he hiding something? Or was it merely fear of being wrongly accused? As the weeks turned into months, theories about Brian's fate multiplied. Some believed he was the victim of foul play, that perhaps he was lured outside through a service door or an unmonitored back exit. Others speculated that Brian, overwhelmed by grief from his mother's death, might have staged his own disappearance, seeking a fresh start elsewhere. The river was searched, surrounding buildings were checked, but not a single piece of evidence surfaced to suggest what had happened. Alexis continued calling Brian's phone for months, hoping against hope for an answer. At one point, the phone rang, but the call never connected, leading to further confusion and heartbreak. Some wondered if this was a technical glitch or a brief sign that Brian's phone was still in use. Years have passed since that fateful night in 2006, and Brian Shaffer's case remains unsolved. His disappearance has become a haunting mystery, leaving behind more questions than answers. How could someone simply vanish from a crowded bar with security cameras at every exit? Theories abound, but the truth behind Brian Shaffer's disappearance continues to elude everyone, an enduring puzzle that keeps investigators, friends, and family searching for the missing piece. In the quiet town of Mason City, Iowa, the morning of June 27, 1995, took a dark and unexpected turn. Jodi Huisentruit, the energetic and well-loved anchor of KIMT's morning news, had overslept, something she rarely did. At 4 a.m., after receiving a concerned call from her producer, Amy Kunz, Jodi assured her that she was rushing to get ready and would soon be on her way to work. Yet hours passed and Jodi never arrived. As the clock approached 6 a.m., Kunz took over the newscast, filling in for Jodi. Unease crept in as she sent a colleague to check on Jodi at her apartment. What they found sparked one of Iowa's most haunting mysteries. Outside Jodi's apartment, her red Mazda Miata sat parked, but something was clearly wrong. Personal items lay scattered around, her bent car key, her shoes, and other belongings, hinting at a struggle. Neighbors reported hearing screams early that morning, around the time Jodi would have been leaving for work. A white Ford Econoline van had been spotted idling nearby. The signs were clear. Something terrible had happened and Jodi was missing. Born on June 5, 1968, in Long Prairie, Minnesota, Jodi was the youngest daughter in a close-knit family. A standout in high school, she excelled in golf, leading her team to state championships in 1985 and 1986. She later attended St. Cloud State University, where she earned a degree in mass communications. After graduating in 1990, she briefly worked for Northwest Airlines before transitioning into broadcasting. She settled into her role at KIMT in Mason City in late 1993, quickly becoming a popular figure in the community. The night before her disappearance, Jodi had spent time with a friend, John Van Sietse, watching a home video of a recent birthday celebration he had arranged for her. By all accounts, nothing seemed out of the ordinary, until she vanished the following morning. The investigation into Jodi's disappearance was swift but ultimately fruitless. Police found no conclusive evidence, though they did recover an unidentified palm print from her car. Private investigators were hired, and the case garnered national attention. As months turned into years, the mystery deepened. Despite conducting over 1,000 interviews, law enforcement was no closer to solving the case. In May 2001, 6 years after she disappeared, Jodi Huisentruit was declared legally dead. In 2003, the website findjodi.com was created by two journalists to keep the case in the spotlight and encourage new tips. Speculation swirled every time remains were discovered in the region, but none were linked to Jodi. In 2008, a strange development occurred when photocopies of Jodi's personal journal were anonymously mailed to a local newspaper. The sender was later revealed to be the wife of a former Mason City police chief, though the reason for sending the journal remains unclear. In 2017, investigators executed a search warrant against John, seeking GPS data from two of his vehicles. Still, no breakthroughs followed. Despite the passage of nearly 3 decades, the search for Jodi Huisentruit continues. Jodi's family and supporters continue to hope for answers, as her disappearance remains a chilling mystery that still lingers in the minds of many. In July 2005, George Allen Smith, a 26-year-old from Greenwich, Connecticut, and his newlywed wife, Jennifer Hagel, embarked on what was supposed to be a dream honeymoon aboard the Royal Caribbean's Brilliance of the Seas. They had recently married and were eager to celebrate their union while exploring the stunning landscapes of Greece and Turkey. Yet their romantic getaway took a tragic and unsettling turn on the night of July 5th, as the cruise ship sailed between the two countries. George vanished under mysterious circumstances, casting a dark shadow over their once perfect holiday. The night before his disappearance, George and Jennifer had been seen enjoying themselves at the ship's casino, where they gambled and drank with other passengers. Witnesses later reported that George had become visibly intoxicated as the evening progressed. Jennifer, also intoxicated, was found passed out in a hallway and escorted back to her cabin by crew members. Meanwhile, George continued partying with a group of young men, later identified as Josh Askin and 3 Russian-American brothers. The next morning, crew members noticed a disturbing scene outside the couple's cabin, a significant amount of blood smeared on the balcony railing and leading down the side of the ship. However, George was nowhere to be found. It was clear that something had gone terribly wrong. The blood trail led investigators to believe that George had gone overboard, but how and why this happened remains a mystery. While some theorized that George had accidentally fallen overboard, potentially due to his intoxicated state, others suspected foul play. The group of young men George had been with that night became central figures in the investigation. Rumors circulated that a robbery had occurred, with George possibly being assaulted and thrown overboard. Some passengers reported hearing loud noises coming from the cabin that night, further fueling suspicions of a violent altercation. Jennifer Hagel's behavior after the incident also raised eyebrows. She reportedly continued the cruise for a short period before returning to the United States, and later accepted a financial settlement from Royal Caribbean, which some viewed as controversial. While this settlement included a confidentiality agreement, it did not prevent her from continuing to seek answers about her husband's disappearance. Over the years, George Smith's case has remained unsolved, despite investigations by the FBI and other authorities. The lack of surveillance footage capturing his fall and the conflicting accounts from key witnesses have left many questions unanswered. George's family has continued to advocate for more thorough investigations, believing that more could be done to uncover the truth about what happened that fateful night. His disappearance remains one of the most high-profile cases involving a missing person on a cruise ship, sparking changes in cruise ship safety protocols and inspiring continued calls for justice. On March 22, 2011, the vast and tranquil Pacific Ocean witnessed a mystery that remains unsolved to this day: the disappearance of Rebecca Coriam, a 24-year-old British crew member aboard the Disney Wonder cruise ship. Rebecca was last seen alive in the early morning hours, but what followed has left only questions and speculation, casting a dark shadow over one of the happiest places on Earth. Rebecca Coriam grew up in Chester, England, where she led a happy and adventurous life. Known for her warmth and love of travel, Rebecca worked several jobs in childcare before embarking on a new adventure as a youth activities coordinator for Disney Cruise Line in 2010. Her dream job took her around the world, providing entertainment and care for children aboard the Disney Wonder as it sailed across oceans and continents. Rebecca's time on the ship was filled with the excitement of travel. But on that fateful day, her journey came to a sudden and mysterious end. The Disney Wonder had been cruising along the west coast of Mexico, heading toward Puerto Vallarta. The ship was packed with guests, enjoying the iconic Disney experience when something went terribly wrong. At 9 a.m. on March the 22nd, 2011, Rebecca failed to show up for her shift, which immediately raised concerns among her colleagues. After hours passed with no sign of her, the ship's crew launched a thorough search, but Rebecca had seemingly vanished without a trace. She was last seen on CCTV footage at 5:45 a.m., dressed casually in men's clothing, talking on an internal phone in the crew quarters. The conversation appeared to be intense, with Rebecca seemingly distressed. After hanging up the phone, she walked away and was never seen again. Disney Cruise Line immediately reported Rebecca's disappearance, and the ship conducted a full search, but there was no sign of her. The U.S. Coast Guard and the Mexican Navy were alerted, and the ship retraced its route, but still nothing was found. With no clues as to what had happened, the case was handed over to the Bahamian authorities since the ship was registered in the Bahamas. The investigation, however, was criticized for being brief and superficial. A single officer was sent to the ship, interviewing only a handful of crew members before concluding that Rebecca had likely been swept overboard by a rogue wave while on the ship's pool deck. But that explanation raised more questions than it answered. There were no eyewitnesses, no reported rough seas, and Rebecca's body was never recovered. The official conclusions seemed too quick and too simple for a case filled with uncertainty. Her family, devastated by the news, flew to Los Angeles where the ship docked, hoping to find answers. However, they were met with vague responses from Disney and little help from the investigators. Disney representatives showed the Coriam family the CCTV footage of Rebecca's last known sighting, but no further evidence was offered. Her parents were also given a single sandal, which the company claimed had been found on the deck, where they believed Rebecca went overboard. The Coriams were unconvinced that this told the whole story. As time passed, more unsettling details began to emerge. Crew members, speaking anonymously, cast doubt on the official version of events, suggesting that something more sinister might have occurred. Rebecca had been distressed before her disappearance, and some speculated that she might have been involved in a romantic relationship that had gone wrong. Others suggested that her disappearance might have been the result of foul play. These suspicions were bolstered by the fact that the ship's pool deck, where Disney suggested Rebecca had fallen, was a highly trafficked area with cameras and railings. Yet no footage of Rebecca near the pool was ever released, and no passengers reported seeing anything suspicious that night. The mystery deepened when it was revealed that Rebecca had sent a message to a friend shortly before she vanished, indicating that she was struggling. However, the nature of her struggles remains unclear. Was it personal turmoil, a difficult relationship, or something else? Her family was adamant that Rebecca, a former cadet in the British Army and a strong swimmer, would not have been easily swept overboard or taken her own life. They believed that something far more nefarious had happened on that ship. As the months passed, the Coriam family's frustration grew. They launched their own investigation, pressing Disney and the Bahamian authorities for answers. British parliamentarians even raised the issue in government, questioning the effectiveness of the investigation and Disney's role in it. Yet no new information came to light. The Bahamian authorities closed the case, and Disney largely distanced itself from the matter, issuing condolences but offering no further details. In the years since her disappearance, Rebecca's family has continued to fight for justice, calling for greater accountability and transparency in investigations involving cruise ships. They maintain that the Bahamian investigation was inadequate and that Disney has not done enough to help uncover the truth. To this day, no new leads have emerged, and Rebecca's case remains unsolved. What happened on that ship in the early morning hours of March the 22nd, 2011, remains an enigma, one that has spurred calls for greater scrutiny of the cruise ship industry and its handling of missing persons cases. Despite the passing years, the search for answers continues, and her family holds out hope that someday the truth will come to light. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to see more of our content, please hit the subscribe button.